Okay, I wanted to do just a real quick few minutes on my newsletter yesterday, 3 tips and tricks, math tips for divorce lawyers. And this is some cool math. It's kind of like a behind the scenes look at how I make deals work. And I think it can be helpful to divorce lawyers. Don't try this at home. Always make sure I get involved so I can really work out the math and make sure that the loan is approved in advance for you. But here's 3 quick little tips. First tip, and by the way, we're broadcasting from Quarantivity today. That's where I am. And this is April 1st, 2020. So the first tip is spousal support. Stretch it. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of times people might be talking about spousal support and they come up with a figure of $5,000 a month and they'll say, we'll do this for 2 years. The problem in mortgage underwriting is that 2 years of income into the future doesn't count for anything. So if you go $5,000 a month for 2 years, exactly $0 of that can be used to qualify somebody in a mortgage. So here's what you do. You stretch it out to that limit or to that continuance requirement, and that is 3 years. Now there's some other little nuances, but basically 3 years. So what we do is we take the $5,000 a month times the 24 months, come up with $120,000, and we divide that by 3 years or 36 months, and we ask the recipient, do you think you could take $3,333 a month for 3 years instead of $5,000 a month for just 2 years? Same dollars, and more often than not, by the way, they say, yes, I think I can do that if it means getting this deal done, if it means me being able to finance a mortgage. So once that's resolved, then we actually have, for the payer, the person who's paying, now we've helped that person qualify for their mortgage, which I always try to work on that one too, whether they're buying or whatever. Now, instead of $5,000 a month counting against their debt ratio, now it's only $3,333 counting against their debt ratio. Huge difference, and it makes all the difference in the world for both sides and for the person qualifying for a mortgage. So the first tip on spousal support, make sure it stretches out long enough. The second tip is structuring child support. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm not going to structure child support. I suppose it's mostly set by the state. There's amounts that are required, 25%, 20%, and so forth, whatever. But here's what I mean, structuring it so that the person who's receiving the child support can count that child support in their qualifying income. All right, so there's 2 things about child support and any support actually. One is history of receiving it. The guidelines say you have to document receiving it for 6 months, and its continuance. It also has to continue for 36 months, just like we talked about up here. So what is the math trick? Here it is, 2 tricks. Number 1, begin immediately, and you immediately get a start on that 6 months. Now, how can that happen when there's not a final divorce, there's not a temporary order? It doesn't matter. Just document receiving it. In other words, I'll tell the person who's going to receive support, can your spouse go ahead and start paying it now? Here's how they'll pay it without actually paying any extra money. They've been making the house payment, they've been making the car payment, they've been buying the groceries or whatever. Total up what that would be and get an amount that's going to be your support, and have them start paying you, and then you start paying those bills. So that even before the divorce is final, in theory, by the way, it could be even before petition for divorce is filed. All we're looking for in mortgage underwriting is a history of having received it. Documentation is key in our world. Now there's a couple of nuances. There's one, the smallest underwriting engine, Freddie Mac, requires that there have been an order in place to do it, but we don't underwrite to that standard for the most part. So all the other major underwriting guidelines will say just document having received it for 6 months. So basically the math trick is getting started early, tricking the calendar. See? And then the second thing is its continuance, 36 months. But here's the math trick there. A lot of people think, well, especially if they say, well, it can't start until final divorce, then we got to wait 3 years from that point. No, the guidelines say it has to continue for 3 years or 36 months from the date of application. So that's not so much a math trick as it is this little tip. have your client apply as soon as possible, the very day that they come and see you. If I could get in touch with them, and I rarely can unless they find me on the internet, but I would have them start the application as soon as possible, before they even go see their lawyer. But start the application, because the 36 months begins from the date of application. Okay, the third trick and tip is this: DTI, or what we call debt to income. We even have a acronym and a letter for the word to, DTI. It's hugely important in mortgage underwriting, because it's now a matter of law. You've got to verify a borrower's ability to repay the debt. So debt to income is a huge factor there. By the way, it ranges anywhere from 43% to 55% or so. There's variations there, but for whatever reason, the ratio has to be in line, and with those approximate numbers, depending on the loan type. So how do we manipulate the debt to income ratio? Because in a normal mortgage, your debts are your debts, and maybe you've been told you got to pay that off. Well, good luck. But in a divorce, how do we manipulate a debt to income ratio? Here's how we do it. Here's the math trick. And by the way, I hate to share this too widely, because it's kind of the heart and soul. It's kind of like our secret sauce, one of our little ingredients in our secret sauce. But here it is. If you have a $10,000 credit card debt, it probably has a payment of, who knows, it could be as little as $250, or it could be as much as $600 a month, depending on the terms. But I've just picked an approximate number of $400 a month on a credit card repayment, and that counts against the borrower's debt to income ratio. Well, if there's enough equity in the home and it's properly structured, that's a whole other case and a course. But if you can roll that $10,000 into your mortgage, here's what happens to the debt to income ratio. $10,000 in a mortgage costs about $50 a month. You can look it up. 4 1/8%, 30-year mortgage, $10,000 is $50, give or take a few pennies. So just based on rates, the way they've been for the last several months and weeks, you just figure $50 a month for every $10,000. So if you can roll that into the mortgage, all of a sudden the $400 goes away. Now, if somebody makes $4,000 a month, that's equal to 10 points on their debt to income ratio. $50 a month for someone making $4,000 a month is only 1.25 on their debt to income ratio. So you lower the debt to income ratio by 8.75 in that case by simply including that credit card payoff in their new mortgage. So those are the 3 tips. Call me, don't try this on your own, but you can at least get the pencil and paper out and start discussing when to start the application, when to start the child support, how to start the child support, and I'll help you with all of that. Thank you.